Here's a scenario I want you to sit with. You've just retired. It's day one. Everything that we just talked about in the last 5 episodes, in the last 5 years, is running. And you're 3 months in, spending a little higher because now you have the free time to do so. The portfolio goes down for a quarter. And now you have the urge to do something. Is that a broken plan? Or is it a plan that's working exactly the way it's supposed to? And it's a year that's just noisier than you anticipated in retirement. Hi, I'm Will Hoffman, founder and president of Hoffman Wealth Management, and this is the Pre-Retirement Navigated podcast. This entire show lives in the 5 years leading up to retirement because there's a lot to do in that year. I mean, a lot. We've just gone over the years. Now we are getting into, and this is going to be the good stuff, when we get into the individual topics, the different scenarios, all the minute decisions that need to be made during this 5-year process. We're going to go through them year by year. We're going to skip around a bit, but this is when we talk about how do we make that Social Security decision? How do we pick the date? How do we do all of these things that need to be done in these 5 years leading up to retirement and the individual decisions that need to be made? But first, we're going to get into the first year of retirement. Year zero is what we're calling it. The year you retire. And all of the things that go on there, because that is a noisy year. There's a lot going on. You're finally free. You don't have to be in the cube from 9 to 5. You don't have to be at work. You don't have to be running your business. And now all of the things that you have put off to this time frame now start mounting up. All the home improvement projects, all the travel, the trips, things that you've wanted to spend time on. It's the most expensive year of retirement. It's the year that we're spending, we're free. We feel like a kid in a candy store, and we can now spend and do. So it can be the most expensive, and it can be the loudest. It's when the news hurts the worst. We haven't experienced this before. Yes, bad news hurt. Bad news sounded, we thought about our portfolios, but we weren't living off of those portfolios, and now we are. So now the headlines are louder. You think about them in your own situation rather than, well, I'll just keep investing, keep my head down, keep accumulating. So we go through this emotional toil that we put ourselves through every time there's some headline risk. And I want to get into a stat that retirees in the first year will often draw approximately 10% of their liquid assets, well above the 4% long run that we model, that we hear about, the rule of thumb. And that's from JP Morgan Asset Management. It was a 2026 Guide to Retirement survey that they did. 10%. 10%. They're going to draw 10%. Now, what if you're drawing 10% and the market says, you know what, we're going to take another 10% because there's a new war. There's a tariff conversation. Those are just 2 headlines from the last 2 years. Every year, there's going to be some headline. There's going to be some period of time that causes some market volatility. I've been doing this for 23 years. There's never been a year that it hasn't happened. The market is going to be volatile. Now it's going to be louder because you're drawing 10%, according to JP Morgan stats. So around month 3 or 4, that honeymoon settles in, and this unrecognizable feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have anywhere to be. I miss having somewhere to be, kind of starts to creep in. And you're worried that the system isn't working. You're worried that the processes that you went through aren't engaged properly because there's nothing else to think about. There's no computer screen. There's no agenda. There's no syllabus. There's nothing to worry about. So what we've noticed and what we've learned in 23 years of dealing with retirees and working with retirees and folks in that first year is the folks who navigate year zero the best. They're the folks that treat year zero and treat retirement the same way they treated accumulation from an emotional standpoint, with intention, with a plan. They don't allow the headlines to shock them. They don't allow the news to keep them up at night. They don't stare at the ceiling and wondering, well, this is a good week in the market, this is a bad week in the market, another bad week like this, and I'm going to have to make some changes. And they acknowledge that that psychology is different. Listen, that for the last 30 to 40 years, you've been told to save. You've been told to accumulate. You've been told to keep your head down. And now pulling out money feels wrong. It's always comical to me. And I don't know, maybe it's a sign of the relationship we have with our clients, but folks will always call, and when they need money or when they want to take a distribution that's outside of the norm, they feel like they have to justify it to us, like we're their authority or something. And I've always, I don't know, I've always relished that, because they feel like they want me to say, is that a good reason to take money out of the portfolio? Where what they're actually asking is, am I still going to be okay if I take money out of the portfolio in this capacity? If I take money out of the portfolio now, I don't think it's a, well, we want to take this trip, should we do it? It is is now the time to do it? Is it, are we still going to be okay? Because what I've learned over the course of these 23 years has not been, I'm afraid of the market. It is, am I going to be okay now that the market is doing this? Am I going to be okay now that we're taking this distribution to take the Alaskan cruise or the trip around the world that we've always wanted to? Am I going to be okay gifting this money to my kids? That's what we want to know, is am I going to be okay? And if we've done everything in these 5 years leading up and made the decisions and checked the boxes, the answer is innate. Yes. Yes, we're going to be okay. Yes, we're going to monitor the way we always have been. What's changed is the psychology, not the goal, not the mission, not the market, because the market doesn't care that you're retired. I know we want it to, we want it to behave differently, but the market doesn't care. The news companies, the networks, they don't care that you've retired. They actually prefer it, because now they know their headlines hit different. They know that you're watching with a different intention, and you're going to watch more. You know, it never fails that whenever, and we fortunately haven't had one of these in a while, but the markets break into markets in turmoil, because they know that now you're watching. They know that, listen, when you just had a pension and Social Security, you didn't care what the market did. Now that you have a 401k that you have to live on, the markets in turmoil get your acknowledgement. They get the footage that they're craving for. They get the advertising bang for their buck that they want. So just understand that when you're in year zero, and we're not going to spend a ton of time here, that's going to be for another podcast and another mission when we talk about being in retirement and the decision. Because listen, there's still going to be decisions that need to be made. If you retired at 62, 73 is a long way away, or 75 is a long year away when it comes to required minimum distributions. So there are still a lot of decisions that need to be made. There's still going to be estate conversations that have to be had. But we're not going to spend a ton of time in this first year, but just know that this year is going to hit different. So much so that folks that have gone through this process, a Gallup poll in 2026 showed us that 69% of non-retirees are very or moderately worried about having enough money, but only 39% of actual retirees are that worried. That's a 30-point gap. That living through this time in retirement builds that confidence. And the year you're going to be the least confident is going to be the first year, because this is all new territory. Not only new territory, you didn't watch your parents go through this territory. Maybe you did. We're starting to get to that trend where Gen X is going to have watched their parents, but most of the baby boomers didn't watch their parents have to worry about the market. They didn't watch their parents have to worry about accumulation. The only thing they had to watch their parents do was pick a retirement date, because they had a pension and they had Social Security. So the only thing they had to do was pick the date. They had that built-in cost of living adjustment rider that Social Security gives us. They had that built-in guaranteed income. I know we kind of rolled our eyes that they complained about it, but it seemed kind of nice. They didn't have to worry about the market impact. They didn't have to worry about what the news meant. They didn't have to worry about what happens when their school district raises taxes, and we didn't build this into the plan. None of this stuff were things that we had to worry about 40 years ago. So we didn't build those muscles. We didn't build that tolerance by watching our parents go through that. So if you're going through this for the first time without a guide, sure, it's going to be loud and confusing and volatile whenever the market says, hey, we're going to give back 20% because there's a new tariff or there's a new war or interest rates didn't do what we thought. That's always going to happen. And it's going to happen for the rest of your retirement. That's not a one and done thing. So getting through this first year, these first few years is going to be loud and noisy. But what that stat tells us is once you're through it, you have that confidence to live through it. You have that confidence to not blink when the market does what it does. If we've built the processes the right way, like we've discussed in the 5 years leading up to this point, and like we're going to discuss in these individual decisions, year zero may be loud, may be unsettling, but you're going to have a plan to come back to, and that's what's important. So if you're listening to this and wondering where you are in that plan, below in the show notes, you're going to find 2 resources. The first is a pre-retirement checklist. It is a checklist we put all of our clients through. It's going to let you know what's taken care of, what's not. The link is in the show notes. Please feel free to download that. It's going to take you right to our website. You're going to have the ability to download that checklist, see what's done and see what's not. The other, if you do want to engage farther, there will be a link to schedule a call directly with our office. So you can find out if we're a fit. You can ask the questions that these podcasts and these videos are hopefully stirring up in your mind. And you can ask those questions and see where you are in this process. Both of those resources are linked in the show notes below, and I'd encourage you to take advantage of all of those. Like I said, we got a lot more to go, a lot more decisions to needle in on. This is just year zero. This is going to be a shorter episode because we're going to get into this with a whole nother series when we have the capacity and the time to build those. But I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Again, if you have those questions, feel free to engage us. Drop in the comments if you're watching us on YouTube or anywhere else. If you do have questions that you want us to make sure we're covering, this is all built based on my 23 years of being in this profession and the things that we've worked our clients through. But if there's things that are on your mind, we would love to hear from you. So please drop all that in the questions or in the comments below, excuse me. But until then, thank you for tuning in to the Pre-Retirement Navigated podcast, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Will Hoffman offers investment advice through Private Advisor Group, which is a federally registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult with the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.